August 5th, 1945. Hiroshima, a city still breathing even after years of war. The air is heavy with summer heat. Laundry flutters between narrow streets. Children chase each other across the riverbank, their laughter echoing off quiet bridges. Somewhere, a mother folds her son's school uniform for the next day. To her, tomorrow will be just another Monday. Above the calm, a different kind of silence spreads, the kind that comes before history changes direction. Hundreds of miles away on a small island in the Pacific, ground crews work in darkness. They move carefully, as if afraid to touch the thing they are carrying. Inside the hangar, a silver plane waits, its name already painted in black letters, Enola Gay. The bomb inside it is new, untested on cities, its code name, Little Boy. Back in Hiroshima, no one knows the name of that plane or the men who will fly it. To them, the war feels distant. Yes, food is scarce. Families whisper about defeat. But Hiroshima has been spared from the firestorms that erase Tokyo and Osaka. The city believes it is safe, maybe even protected. Some say the gods have watched over it. Others simply think it's luck. As night deepens, the streets empty. A train whistles for the last time that evening. The river reflects the yellow glow of lanterns. Somewhere, a radio hums with soft static. Weather reports, military bulletins, nothing unusual. And yet, something is moving closer. On Tinian Island, the final checklist is read aloud. Fuel levels, flight path, weather over Japan, all perfect. At exactly 2:45 a.m., Enola Gay's engines roar to life. The ground trembles as the bomber lifts into the dark. Its shadow disappears into the clouds, carrying with it a secret that will divide the world. Hiroshima sleeps. No one looks up. No one suspects that the dawn ahead will bring a second sun. August 5th, 1945. The last full day Hiroshima would ever live in innocence. At sunrise, the Ota River glimmers between wooden houses. Fishermen cast nets into the slow current, their reflections shimmering beneath them. Children in white uniforms hurry toward the schoolyard, sweeping dust from the roads, a national duty now called mobilized student work. They laugh as they work, waving to soldiers marching past, unaware that they are clearing the very streets that will soon vanish. Life continues in precise familiar rhythms. Trams clang down the main avenue. Vendors shout prices for rice, though the sacks grow lighter each week. At Shima Surgical Clinic, Dr. Shigeru Toshiro records patient notes, his handwriting neat and calm. He's been stationed here since the air raids in other cities drove thousands to seek safety in Hiroshima. He believes, like many, that the city's flat geography makes it unlikely to be bombed. Military factories are small. There's no clear target of strategic value. At the market, mothers trade ration coupons for eggs or sweet potatoes. Rumours ripple through the crowd. Tokyo may fall soon, or perhaps surrender is near. But no one truly believes it. War fatigue has turned disbelief into habit, a defence mechanism of the soul. They've lived through too many alarms, too many nights of waiting that ended in nothing. When sirens sound now, most people don't even look up. In the army barracks, Lieutenant Nakamura inspects his men. He's 23, proud, disciplined. He writes in his notebook that morale is adequate. He doesn't know that this note will outlive every man he commands. Across town, a 13-year-old girl named Yumi Sasaki hides her diary beneath her pillow. She writes of missing her brother, killed in Okinawa, and of her dream to become a teacher when the war ends. That night she plans to read her new poem to her best friend. Tomorrow, she's titled it. The word tomorrow carries no weight yet. It is still innocent. From above, Hiroshima is peaceful. 6 rivers, green hills surrounding it like protective arms. Bridges arch gracefully. Gardens bloom within temple courtyards. The morning smoke rises from hundreds of kitchens, thin and harmless. To a passing pilot, it looks untouched. A city alive, whole, ordinary. Beneath that serenity, preparations for a different morning unfold. In a bunker outside the city, meteorologists chart cloud cover for the Imperial Army. They don't know that the same reports are being copied by American analysts on Tinian Island. Both sides, unknowingly, are synchronizing the same sky. By noon, the heat presses down like a blanket. Children nap in shade. Workers remove windows to prevent glass from shattering during future air raids, a routine act of caution that will save few. A factory siren blares at 2 p.m, not for danger, just for shift change. The human mind adapts easily, even at the edge of annihilation. If one walked through Hiroshima that day, nothing felt like the eve of destruction. Every street hummed with life, a city convinced the war had already taken enough from it. There was no fear, only exhaustion, no hatred, only habit. The world's first atomic target was still a place of laughter, of rituals, of plans for the next sunrise. As evening settles, soldiers return home, their boots echoing on stone bridges. Yumi Sasaki finishes her homework. Dr. Toshiro closes his clinic, noting in his logbook that patient recovery is steady. Lieutenant Nakamura writes a letter to his fiancée. I believe the war will soon end. When it does, let us rebuild this city together. Lanterns flicker across the riverbanks. Families gather for dinner, rice, miso, a few vegetables. They talk softly of ration cards and the coming harvest. Some pray for sons still fighting. Others simply pray the next morning will be cooler. At 9 p.m, air raid sirens wail briefly. A reconnaissance plane has crossed the coastline. No bombs fall. The all-clear sounds within minutes. Children return to their beds, unafraid. They've learned that sirens lie. Midnight approaches. The cicadas scream louder, drowning out the world. The city exhales into its final sleep. In history, destruction often begins not with chaos, but with quiet. On this night, Hiroshima's silence was perfect. So perfect that even the stars seemed to pause and listen. August 6th begins like any other summer morning in Hiroshima. The clock on the prefectural office reads 5:30 a.m. The city is already awake, vendors setting up their stalls, students buttoning uniforms, the smell of boiled rice drifting through wooden homes. No one notices that the sky looks clearer than usual, a perfect blue, as if polished overnight. To the east, over the Pacific, a single aircraft crosses the horizon at high altitude. It's a US B-29 named Straight Flush. Its mission, weather reconnaissance. Its purpose, to report whether Hiroshima is clear enough for the plane that follows. The crew notes, visibility excellent, no clouds. They turn back, unaware that their brief message will seal the city's fate. 2,400 kilometers away, Enola Gay sits ready. Colonel Paul Tibbets inspects the aircraft one last time. He's 30 years old, calm, confident, methodical. A man trained to complete orders without hesitation. Around him, ground crews check wiring, seals, detonators. The bomb, Little Boy, rests in the belly of the plane, armed but incomplete. Its uranium core will be inserted mid-flight. Every man here has been told only fragments of the mission. They know it's special, but not what it means. Only Tibbets and a handful of scientists understand that this flight will open a new chapter of human power and human fear. In the city, the day unfolds like any other. Children sweep schoolyards. Housewives scrub steps. At the military headquarters, officers review reports of Allied movements in Kyushu. Nothing unusual. The last air raid was weeks ago. The silence has made them careless. At 7 a.m, local radar picks up a small formation of planes heading toward the coast. Observers note 3 B-29s, high altitude. Command concludes, reconnaissance only. No sirens are activated. Hiroshima citizens continue their breakfast. War trains the mind to ignore danger when it comes too often. Every warning feels like another false alarm, until it isn't. At the Jesuit mission on the city's edge, Father Wilhelm Kleinsorg finishes morning mass. He notices the air, still, hot, unmoving, as if waiting for something, he writes later in his journal. In another neighbourhood, a boy catches a dragonfly and ties a string to it, letting it hover in the sunlight. Moments of small, perfect peace, the kind that history often erases first. At 2:45 a.m., local time, Enola Gay takes off. The engines roar against the ocean wind. Tibbet's co-pilot Robert Lewis scribbles in his logbook, "We're on our way to a mission that will make history." What kind, I don't know. The plane climbs to 31,000 feet and heads northwest, toward Iwo Jima, then Japan. Inside the bomb bay, little boy lies quiet, its fuses armed, its uranium core assembled mid-air by a nervous weaponeer named Parsons. He works in near darkness, sweat dripping onto the cold metal. He prays he doesn't make a mistake. 7:09 a.m. Hiroshima's streetcars begin their first run of the day. 7:30, school assembly begins. 7:45, housewives hang laundry in the morning breeze. Each action feels eternal, repeatable. But history will never allow them to happen again. Over the Seto Inland Sea, the Enola Gay receives its final radio confirmation, target primary. Weather clear. The crew adjust their course, heading directly for Hiroshima. Flight time, 40 minutes. At 8 a.m., the city stood in perfect balance between existence and oblivion. A few degrees of wind, a single cloud, or a different report might have saved it. But fate, or history, requires precision. Above the coastline, Enola Gay emerges from the sunlight, unseen and unheard. The bomb doors unlock with a metallic click. Inside, the men are silent. No prayers, no hesitation, only protocol. The clock on the prefectural office ticks toward 8:15. Hiroshima's last minute of peace has begun. A mother reaches for her child's hand. A teacher writes the first line of a morning lesson. A boy releases the dragonfly, watching it rise into the sky. No one looks up. No one ever does. Before the bomb ever fell, it existed as an idea, forged not in malice, but in fear. The fear that Nazi Germany might master the atom first, that science itself could determine who would survive the century. In Washington, D.C., behind closed doors, that fear took form. It became a race. And races do not pause for morality. Albert Einstein's letter to President Roosevelt. The Manhattan Project begins. Thousands of scientists scattered across secret facilities in Los Alamos, Oak Ridge, Hanford. A city of minds creating something no human had yet imagined. A weapon that split the universe open. 3 years later, Germany surrendered. But the bomb was already finished. Now, the question changed. What do we do with it? In July 1945, President Harry S. Truman meets his advisors at Potsdam. The war in Europe is over. Japan refuses to surrender. Truman is briefed by Secretary of War Henry Stimson. If this weapon works, it could end the war instantly. But what does end mean when it arrives through fire? Many in the Manhattan Project beg for a demonstration, a detonation over an empty island, a warning to Japan. They are told it's too risky. If it fails, the world will laugh. If it succeeds, the Japanese might still resist. One man in the room says quietly, "They will only understand when they see it." The target committee assembles in a small conference room. 4 cities are listed: Kyoto, Kokura, Niigata, Hiroshima. Kyoto is spared. Cultural heritage, too sacred. Niigata, too small. Kokura, industrial but cloud-prone. Hiroshima, flat terrain. No Allied POWs, large enough to measure damage clearly. The choice is not personal, it is mathematical. Hiroshima was not chosen out of hatred. It was chosen because it was perfect. Back on Tinian Island, Colonel Paul Tibbets receives final orders. Primary target, Hiroshima. Secondary, Kokura. He signs without hesitation. His mission is clear: deliver the weapon, record the results, return alive. The night before takeoff, some of the crew drink coffee in silence. They discuss home, baseball, the heat. None speak of what they carry. In his log, co-pilot Robert Lewis writes, "We're going to change the course of history." I hope it's for the better. Physicist J. Robert Oppenheimer stands alone after the Trinity test, watching the first nuclear fireball fade. He quotes the Bhagavad Gita, "Now I am become death, the destroyer of worlds." But in Washington, that line will not appear in any report. The documents read only, "Test successful." August 5th, 1945, midnight. The atomic bomb Little Boy is armed aboard Enola Gay. The crew runs final checks. They've been instructed that this weapon contains the energy of 15,000 tons of TNT. Few can comprehend what that means. At 1:30 a.m., Tibbets gathers his men. He tells them the mission's goal: to end the war and save lives. He does not mention radiation or fallout or the word atomic, just efficiency, speed, completion. The men nod. No one refuses. War, after all, had long ago taught them that obedience is survival. In less than 7 hours, the human race will cross a threshold it can never return from, one that scientists, soldiers, and presidents will later try to explain, justify, even forget. But history does not forget. 3 a.m. Enola Gay reaches cruising altitude. The men eat chocolate bars and sip black coffee. Outside the window, the Pacific glows faintly under a crescent moon. None of them can see Hiroshima yet. But the city is already waiting, unaware that it has been selected by coordinates on a map. Somewhere below, in that sleeping city, a child dreams of fireworks. In the sky above, a new kind of fire is already on its way. The pilot checks his instruments. The bomb crew arms the fuses. The final word is given. The moment humanity leaves its innocence behind begins, not with hate, but with the push of a single button. 8:09 a.m. Altitude 31,000 feet. The Enola Gay crosses the coastline of Japan. Below, Hiroshima glows under perfect sunlight. No clouds, no haze. In the bomb bay, the final safety pins are removed. Weapon ready. Navigator Theodore Van Kirk adjusts the heading. Bombardier Thomas Ferraby peers through the northern sight, scanning for the T-shaped Aoi Bridge. The perfect target. 8:14:30. The plane banks slightly left. The city drifts beneath like a postcard. Streets, tram lines, schoolyards. Ferraby steadies his hand, his voice calm, target in sight. The order echoes through the intercom. Inside the bomb bay, a metallic door slides open. Sunlight floods the compartment. A single object, cylindrical and grey-green, dangles silently in the air. 8:15 a.m. The bomb is released. For 43 seconds, Little Boy falls through the morning air. It spins slowly, stabilizing itself, descending at nearly 1,000 feet per second. Below, no one looks up. A few people hear the faint drone of engines, then fading silence. A girl glances skyward, shielding her eyes from the sun. She sees something silver flash for a moment, like a falling mirror. At 1,900 feet above the ground, the barometric trigger closes its circuit. A pulse of light erupts, brighter than the sun, hotter than the heart of a star. In the first millisecond, the temperature reaches 1 million degrees. Air transforms into plasma. Concrete liquefies. Flesh becomes shadow. Time fractures. At ground zero, the entire city centre disintegrates. Buildings vanish, leaving nothing but outlines, like ghosts burned onto the earth. The explosion expands outward at nearly the speed of sound. A shock wave crushes every wall within a mile. The blast wind lifts bodies into the air and erases them mid-flight. Every clock in Hiroshima stops at exactly 8:15. The bomb's flash lasts less than 1 second. But it marks the boundary between two versions of humanity, one that imagined destruction and one that achieved it. For those miles away, it feels like the world has torn open. Windows shatter in unison. Blinding white turns to orange, then black. The heat burns shadows into pavement, the silhouettes of people who no longer exist. Leaves vanish from trees replaced by fire, the rivers boil. And in that silence there are no screams, only the roar of the wind. At 8:16 a.m, Enola Gay banks sharply, escaping the blast. The crew stares through the rear window as a vast column of fire rises, silent at first, then thunderous. Co-pilot Robert Lewis writes one line in his logbook, "My God, what have we done?" The mushroom cloud grows to 60,000 feet. The city below is gone, replaced by a spiralling pillar of dust, smoke and human ash. Inside it, glass melts, steel bends, and thousands of lives evaporate in the span of a heartbeat. The bomb releases 13 kilotons of energy. 70,000 people die instantly. Tens of thousands more begin dying, slowly and visibly, as radiation seeps into their blood. No one in history had ever seen such light, and no one would ever see Hiroshima again as it was. In the distance, a priest crawls from the rubble, half blind. He looks toward the sky, the cloud rising, blooming like a monstrous flower. He later writes, "I thought it was the end of the world." And in a way it was, not the end of humanity, but the end of our ignorance. Back aboard Enola Gay, the men fly home in silence. No cheers, no celebration, only the sound of the engines carrying them away from the birth of the nuclear age. They do not know yet that what they released will keep killing for generations, that children not yet born will carry its mark. At 8:15 a.m, time stopped in Hiroshima. The sun rose twice, and when it set again, the world was no longer the same. For several seconds after detonation, Hiroshima no longer exists as a city. Only light remains, expanding, devouring, erasing. Then comes the sound, a wave of pressure, rolling outward like the earth itself is exhaling. The blast smashes windows 20 kilometers away. Bridges collapse. The air itself becomes a weapon. Within one heartbeat, 70,000 human beings are gone. No cries, no words, only the vapour of presence. Those who survive the first second find themselves inside a new world, one of blinding heat, deafening silence, and air that tastes like metal. The sky turns white, then red, then black. A swirling column rises, pulling everything into it. Smoke, soil, ash, people. It stretches upward until it touches the stratosphere, twisting into a mushroom shape that will haunt humanity forever. Below it, Hiroshima breathes its last. The centre of the city is unrecognizable. Streets have melted into patterns of glass. Rivers are on fire, carrying burning boats downstream. The wooden houses that once lined them are gone, replaced by a flat desert of embers. The few trees that remain stand leafless and glowing, their bark turned to charcoal. Bodies lie where shadows once were. Some are burned beyond recognition, others simply gone, replaced by outlines scorched onto walls, pavements, and bridges. Every shape tells a story that can no longer be told. The air is thick with dust and the smell of iron. No one knows yet what radiation is. No one knows that breathing now means dying later. They crawl through ruins, calling for names that no longer exist. No sound answers them. Only the low crackle of fire and the distant rumble of collapsing beams. Time moves strangely here. Minutes stretch into eternities. The sun disappears behind smoke, turning the day into twilight. Rain begins to fall, thick, oily, black. It coats the ruins, mixing ash and blood into a slow-moving paste. People lift their faces to it, desperate for water, not knowing it carries death. At the edges of the city, survivors stagger toward the riverbanks. They throw themselves into the water, skin peeling, eyes burned, lungs filled with soot. The Otter River, once the centre of daily life, becomes a graveyard that moves. Bodies float silently downstream, tangled together, glowing faintly in the reflected fire. The wind carries the smell for miles. Farmers in nearby villages stop their work looking toward the column of smoke. No one understands what they are seeing. Some think it is a fuel depot explosion. Others think the gods have struck the earth. Hours pass. Fires continue to burn. There are no sirens, no rescue teams, no sound of airplanes anymore. Only a silence so complete that it feels alive. It is not the silence of peace. It is the silence of something that has forgotten how to speak. As night falls, Hiroshima flickers faintly, a sea of embers under a darkened sky. The wind shifts, and the smoke drifts out to sea, carrying with it the dust of a city that no longer is. By midnight, the fires begin to die, leaving only orange scars across the ruins. Underneath them, the earth glows dimly, still hot, still breathing. The next morning, reconnaissance planes pass overhead. They see nothing moving, nothing green, nothing left to destroy. A single pilot writes in his report, "There are no recognizable streets." What was once a city of 350,000 has become a map of shadows. Beyond Japan, the world listens, in Washington, in London, in Moscow. Silence, then disbelief, then awe. The weapon works. The war may be ending. But something deeper has begun. Something that will never end. For the first time in history, mankind has created a moment that cannot be undone. Every nation will soon feel its gravity. Every generation will live beneath its shadow. When the fires fade, the people who survive walk through ruins that no longer feel real. They carry their wounded, their blind, their burned, moving toward nowhere, guided only by instinct. They do not yet know that they are the first witnesses of a new era. They do not yet know that the invisible light still burns inside them. By the time the wind clears, Hiroshima has become a silence carved into the memory of the earth itself. It is no longer a city. It is a warning written in dust. The world stops breathing. And for the first time, humanity understands what it means to hold the power to end itself. The morning after the bomb, Hiroshima is silent. The air still trembles with invisible heat. The smell of ash, metal, and burnt rain clings to everything. From the rivers, thin trails of smoke rise like ghosts returning to the sky. There is no movement, only the sound of wind passing through what used to be a city. The survivors wander, not yet understanding that they have stepped into history. They move through streets that no longer have names, searching for fragments of the world that was. A shoe, a lunchbox, a lock of hair caught in wire. Every object becomes sacred because it is proof that something once existed here. The doctors who remain work without tools or medicine. They tear strips of fabric from their own clothes to bind wounds that will not heal. Their hands shake from exhaustion and radiation they do not yet understand. They whisper prayers not to any god, but to time itself, begging it to slow down, to give them one more hour, one more heartbeat, one more life to save. By nightfall, the fires have gone out, leaving behind a new colour of silence, the kind that hums beneath the skin. Across Japan, rumours spread. A new type of bomb, people say. A single weapon capable of erasing a city. No one believes it. Not yet. They think it must be an exaggeration, another myth of war. Even in Tokyo, the emperor is told only fragments of the truth. When the photographs arrive days later, the world stops. Black and white images of a city that no longer exists. People frozen mid-step, their shadows burned into stone. Hiroshima has become an X-ray of the human soul. 2 days later, Nagasaki follows. By then, the lesson has already been written in light and fire. On August 15th, Japan surrenders. The war ends, but the age of peace begins beneath a shadow. In the months that follow, survivors, the hibakusha, begin to speak. Their words are quiet, unpolished, trembling with disbelief. They describe a sky that burned, a rain that poisoned, a silence that never left. They are not angry, they are not vengeful, they are simply haunted by the fact that they lived when so many did not. Scientists study the ruins, collecting melted watches, warped steel, fragments of bone. They measure radiation, note its persistence. They realize the bomb's light continues long after the explosion, invisible, silent, endless. The power to destroy has become a power that does not stop destroying. In America, newspapers print victory headlines. Some call it necessary, others call it monstrous. But beneath every justification lies the same unspoken question: have we gone too far to ever come back? The generals write their reports, the scientists retreat into guilt, the politicians move on to rebuilding. Yet the shadow of Hiroshima stretches across every decade that follows, through Korea, through the Cold War, through every test that shakes the desert and turns night into day. Every nation remembers Hiroshima differently, some as triumph, some as tragedy. But the earth remembers only the heat and the light and the silence that followed. Today, the city has risen again. Glass towers, gardens, rivers clear once more. Children play where the ashes once fell. But beneath their feet, the ground still carries memory. Particles of the past woven into the soil. Each summer, they gather by the river with lanterns in their hands. They light candles for the souls who vanished in an instant. Lanterns drift silently downstream, reflecting on the water like a second constellation. Each one a small sun, floating toward the sea. The survivors grow old, their voices fade. The world grows louder, faster, distracted. But the question they leave behind does not age. It waits quietly in every laboratory, every missile silo, every hand that holds power. The bomb ended a war, but it began a truth that cannot be unlearned, that civilization's greatest achievement is also its greatest threat, that progress can destroy as easily as it creates, that the future, every future, depends on what we choose to remember. Hiroshima was the place where the world learned to fear the sunrise, and every dawn since has carried its shadow. No one in Hiroshima knew that morning that the sun would rise twice, but the second sunrise never truly set.